Welcome back to my channel. In honor of Thanksgiving, I thought I would trauma dump on you all. um, no, I'm just joking around, but I've been missing for a while and I really wanted to kind of give a life update and a, make a diary entry, a video diary entry of sorts. As you can tell by the title, this is a pretty serious topic that has really shifted my life and just overall perspective on humans. And traumatic things happen to people. Unfortunately, sometimes that impacts how they view the world around them. So let's jump into it. Living in Massachusetts was not on my bingo card. Let's start there. No offense to any New Englander that may be watching, but I was living in Florida for about, 15 or so years. I was born and raised in Toronto, so I've done my time in the cold. I don't have any family or friends in Massachusetts, so just know it was not on my bingo card to move to this particular area. Now, I did have some friends in Connecticut that those relationships kind of died out over time as we grew apart, but for the most part, I had no desire to live out my life in New England, okay? So let's just get that out the way, which makes the situation even more bizarre and even more unfortunate, okay? So let's start from the top. Let's start from the beginning. I'm not obviously gonna say too much just because this is a sensitive topic. The internet lives forever. What you post stays forever. And I wanna be respectful to all of those involved as well as protect my own privacy. So I'll tell the story to the best of my ability. And I also wanna say the reason why I decided to film this is because I kind of wanna create a series so I could look back on it and see how far I've come. Just kind of document my progress of accepting my new life here. And yeah, we're gonna work on the acceptance part. So anyway, let's start from the beginning. I'll tell you how I got into this mess of a situation. Ignorance is bliss, and yeah. So long story short, I started dating this individual. At the time we started dating, I was living in Florida and they had moved to Massachusetts. Now, they grew up in Florida, but they purchased a home here a few years ago. So they had laid roots. A lot of their friends from Florida and other places had also moved back to Massachusetts. So they had, a good friendship village, not so much family, but they had friends here. And at the time that this individual moved here, they landed a good job. Anyway, we dated long distance for a few years and then we got pregnant. Naturally, I thought that the next step would be marriage, we would move in together, so on and so forth, and we would have this fairy tale of a life. I was in my mid-30s at the time and my ex was in his early 40s. He had been married before, I had not been, but naturally I would think that would be the direction we would head in, especially because I was pregnant. Now, was our relationship perfect? No, but we didn't have any, huge issues like cheating or abuse or anything like that. We had little issues as it pertains to communication, but it wasn't to the point where I thought we wouldn't be able to work through said issues. Because again, they weren't flagrant red flags, okay? Now, unfortunately, for a lot of couples, the reason why things don't work out, especially when a woman becomes pregnant, is because the dynamics change. And there are many reasons for why the dynamics change. Obviously, the woman has a human being growing in her, but to be fair, men also have to prepare for this huge adjustment. And sometimes that leads to folks not seeing eye to eye. So if you already have cracks in your relationship, sometimes a pregnancy just exasperates that. And I think that totally happened in our situation. Things just kept getting worse. Now, just to kind of take a step back, I did end up moving to Massachusetts when I was 5 months pregnant. We had committed that we would work things out, we would be a family, and we'd make the best of a situation because, again, we did not have any earth-shattering issues. So I moved here when I was about 4 or 5 months pregnant, and it was okay for a couple of months. Now, towards the end of my pregnancy, things started to get a little bit more rocky. Ultimately, I ended up having an emergency C-section. I had preeclampsia, I had anxiety, I probably had a touch of the baby blues when everything was said and done. So I had a pretty rough delivery. Unfortunately, shortly after delivery, I really was not getting the support that I needed. I was literally trying to survive, given all of those factors I just mentioned, and I wasn't getting the support. Naturally, I said, okay, I'm gonna move back to Florida because that's where my entire support system is. Initially, my ex was down and then he wasn't. Long story short, we ended up in a 2-year custody battle. Um, my ex did not want me to remove our child to Florida, although he once was in agreement with that. We had started to form a plan and everything, so I don't know if he changed his mind, if someone got in his ear. I guess I will never know. When this first started, folks told me that it would be an uphill battle for me and the chances of me winning were slim to none. I did not listen to that. I continued on, and I had made great progress. The first person we spoke with, the conciliator, she said that she thought it'd be best for me to move. She was actually super upset about the whole situation because it just made natural sense for me to go back home given the factors that were disclosed to her. We had a guardian ad litem assigned to the case, same thing. He agreed that I should go back, and in his recommendation was so strongly in my favor that I felt that when we were coming up with the proposed judgment that I had to make concessions to make it more fair, because that's how strongly written in my favor the Garnet Lightem report was, So that's just to give you some context. Although if you have a child in Massachusetts, it is a challenge to remove said child without the permission of the other parent. There are certain circumstances that can make one have a stronger case if you pick up what I'm putting down. And there were certain factors in my particular case that it only made sense for me to move back. Like up until trial, I knew I was going back to Florida. It was like the only logical thing to do given the situation. So anyway, prior to trial, maybe about a year before trial, my ex offered to settle and I refused because I wasn't particularly fond of the proposal. He realized that I had the advantage. Looking back, hindsight is 2020. I should have taken that deal back then, although it wasn't ideal. His proposal was that I would stay in Massachusetts for a couple more years and then leave for Florida. But I was like, nope, let's just go to trial. Let's just get this over and done with so I can go back to Florida sooner rather than later, because again, this was ongoing for 2 years. So that's just to give you some idea of how well I had been doing up until trial. Now, when we started to approach trial, things started to fall apart. Crazy things started to fall apart. I can't go into too many details where that's concerned. None of these issues were my fault. None of these issues I could have corrected or gotten ahead of. I did what I could. It did not work. Again, I cannot speak too much about it. When I tell folks what took place, a lot of people chop it up to something supernatural if you pick up what I'm putting down, because the series of unfortunate events that happened, it's just like, what is going on here? Especially considering it appeared that I had the advantage up until trial. So when trial happened, I went in there and I realized, oh, okay. His side is well prepared and not necessarily with accurate information, but they have put together, or they have created a story or a picture that would be favorable to the courts, very favorable to the courts. And if they didn't have their A game on in the prior motions or in the meetings that we had prior, they pulled out all the stops at trial, okay? I was told that the judgment would take a couple of months. I was told it could take 3 to 6 months to come back. The judgment came back, I believe, in probably a month or less than a month. It wasn't even 2 weeks after So after trial, I think it's like 2 weeks for the attorneys to submit any other information. I think it was 2 weeks after that. So the judge came back with her judgment very quickly. And as you can tell by the title, it was not in my favor. I was devastated because I just knew, again, by the things that I just discussed before, I just knew I was going to go back home. I have nobody here. And I've demonstrated over and over and over again in cases of an emergency, I have nobody here. Oddly enough, when I got the judgment, I was upset for a day or two, but I don't know, I felt like this sense of comfort wash over me. I guess that's God. I didn't feel like I was depressed. I didn't feel like a lot of people in my situation, I don't think would have been able to handle any of this, because this circus started when I was less than a month postpartum. Less than a month postpartum. And I'm not even going to go into details because the internet lives forever, but this circus started 1 month postpartum. I was dragged to court shortly after giving birth to my first child. It was not the experience that I would have wanted for myself or anyone that I know. I never really got a chance to enjoy my baby the way that a lot of people get to, and for that, like, I just feel like that's so unforgivable. I think that a lot of this stuff was premeditated. I did not know, as I mentioned before, that if you have a child in Massachusetts, you need the other parent's permission to be able to leave. And all of this was just so, I'm kind of all over the place, but all of this was just so hurtful, because like, what do you do in a situation like that? You don't get the support that you need. You're not getting the support that you need. And then you're like, okay, well, let me go home and get the support that I need. And it's still no. So what was I supposed to do? Just suffer? But yeah, sometimes I obviously don't want that person back, and I don't desire a relationship with them, but I mourn the idea of what I thought I was going to be creating with this person. And it's sad to think that I had this idea of who I thought they were, and it turned out that they are the complete opposite of that. And I've learned that people will do and say whatever to win. That's definitely something that shocked me. I try to maintain a sense of integrity no matter what, even if something doesn't make me look the best. I will not lie. I will not scheme. I just can't do it. I'm a huge believer in karma. So I really marvel at people who act like karma isn't a thing. But anyway, I was really upset for about a day or two, but I just felt this overwhelming sense of comfort. And I felt like, look, hey, you're in Massachusetts right now. It's not like you're in a war zone. For a lot of people, they regard Massachusetts as like the Switzerland of America for, their great healthcare and their great education system. So I've been trying to do little things and work my way up to larger things to kind of really make my time here enjoyable. So the first couple of things that I was doing was like trying to find someone to do my hair that I could go to regularly, someone to do my nails. So I found a stylist in Providence, which isn't too far from where I live, to do my hair. I do enjoy her work. I like her work. I've gone to a couple of nail salons. I think I am about ready to narrow down the nail salon that will be my primary salon. I need to get my nails done this weekend, actually. And that's something I probably was neglecting, especially a lot of moms do this after having a baby, and then let alone, going through the court system for 2 years, it is extremely expensive. So I just wasn't really taking care of myself in the way that I would have prior to this, which, by the way, okay, before moving to Massachusetts, I was living in luxury apartments in South Florida. Like at one point I was living in downtown Fort Lauderdale, and then I moved to Massachusetts. Massachusetts is a much more expensive state, and now I'm in a regular apartment in the middle of nowhere because I can't afford to live anywhere near Boston at the moment, although I have what many would consider a good paying job. Like, life will change. Life is funny as heck. I'm not really laughing right now. You will think you're on top of the world 1 minute, and the next it's like, what just happened? But anyway, what else have I done? I started to go to the gym again. prior to the situation, when I was living in Florida, I was going to Orange Theory religiously, and I had to stop that. Orange Theory is extremely expensive, and again, legal fees are very expensive. We're talking about $400 an hour for an attorney here. And so, yeah, I've joined the Y. It's a much cheaper monthly bill than the Orange Theory Unlimited plan. I kind of slacked off this week. I definitely need to, you know, get back in there and start meeting folks. My goal is next year, when I kind of get my finances a bit more on track, to join Orange Theory or to join another group class, like a boot camp type class around here, and yeah, take it from there. What else have I been doing? I've been going out to eat alone. I've been going to bars, I've been going to restaurants, lounges, and I've been meeting people like that, really men, that will come up and speak to me. Now, while I'm not completely opposed to that, I want girlfriends. Maybe I need to start going to bars and restaurants and starting conversations with women who are also at the bar by themselves. I have dipped my foot back in the dating pool, and I don't know, if you live in Massachusetts, how are you doing it? What are you guys doing? Because I find that dating here is slow. In Florida, if I wanted to be, I could be on a date every single day of the week. In Massachusetts, and maybe again, it's the area that I live in. I live in suburbia. I do not live anywhere near Boston. I don't know if it's a little different in Boston, but yeah, I've kind of decided it's probably time to start dating. My child is 2.5 years old, and yeah, why not? Meet some friends, go on a couple of dates. I went on one date recently, and while I enjoyed his company, I think his situation was a little bit too complicated, and after going through what I have just gone through, I don't want any complexities. My situation is said and done. We have a schedule. I don't have any relationship with my ex. There's nothing to worry about there, and yeah, I'm looking for something similar. If someone has a child, you know, I don't want any drama. Continue to date until I find someone that's equally yoked. I'll take my time. It's there, but it's not high on my priority list. But I do think I should start to explore that aspect of life again. I'm still relatively young, you know. And what else am I doing, you guys? Oh, I started to decorate. So before, I really wasn't getting much furniture. I would go to the secondhand store and get like little fixtures, not beds or anything like that, but like a little coffee table or a little table, that sort of thing. But now, since I am here, I've started to kind of decorate a little bit more. I recently purchased a nice TV stand that I assembled not too long ago. Well, I had a friend help me assemble it. And next up, I'm gonna replace the couch. Then I'm gonna replace one of the beds in one of the rooms here. So over time, I'm going to start to kind of make this place feel a little bit more homey. I don't intend on living in this apartment too much longer, but while I'm here, I do kind of want to have it feel a bit more like home. So I've been doing that, and I want to document it. I want to start a series where I kind of focus on that and focus on content creation. I have put this on the back burner for the longest, and yeah, I want to get back to it, especially considering I have less distractions at the moment because I don't have friends. I don't have a relationship right now. I have acquaintances. Let me not say I don't have any friends. I have acquaintances, I guess, friends. Yeah. So I want to kind of jump back into my content creation bag and start making content and not being scared or worried about what it looks like and wondering if it's perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? That's my life. If you guys are going through a similar situation, or if you've been through a situation like this, down below, let me know. Let me know how you got through it or how you're getting through it. I would love to hear about that. If you have any advice on, what I could be doing to kind of get through this, if you live in the New England area and you have recommendations to meet friends or great places to eat, anything like that, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. If you guys haven't already done so, please hit subscribe, thumbs up the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.